You're listening to the Believe in Giants podcast with two-time Super Bowl winner Carl Banks and the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa.
Welcome to another edition of Believe in Giants presented by FanDuel. Bob Papa, two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. And with great pleasure, we welcome in the offensive coordinator of the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, Mike Denbrock. And Coach, welcome to the show. Obviously, Giants fans, there's a lot of Giants fans that are Notre Dame fans. The New York subway alumni has existed for years. We appreciate you taking a couple minutes to join us here on the program.
Well, we love our Irish fans in the greater New York area, and it's an honor to be here with talking a little Notre Dame football and hopefully talking a little bit about how hopefully some of our guys can help out the New York Giants as we move along here.
Indeed. Coach, let's talk a little bit about Notre Dame football. You have a very dynamic head coach, and it seems like he's the apple of everyone's eye. You got him back. Talk a little bit about what you guys like coming out of spring ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the secret sauce for us here at Notre Dame really revolves around our locker room and the type of people that are in it. And, the brotherhood that exists in the locker room that Coach Freeman has set the example for and set the standard for is kind of the strength behind who we are. And we've got some very talented players. There's no question about that. But how they feel about each other, their care for one another, their willingness to sacrifice for one another is really what has helped take this program a little bit more to a little bit better level and given us an opportunity to even achieve more success headed forward.
Coach, when you think about, coming out of spring ball and, guys don't have preseason games like we have in the National Football League. As an offensive coordinator, as you're putting these pieces together in the offseason and you come out of spring ball, what's it like as you get ready for the start of the season, knowing that you don't get a dress rehearsal at any point?
Yeah, you've got to kind of use practice and the reps that you get on the field to try to get a true feel for your team, who the playmakers are, what the players understand the best, what do they execute consistently at a high level, and then your team kind of gets constructed from there. And what it looks like from year to year may vary a little bit depending on those answers that you get during training camp. So it's really, a little bit more trial by error on the practice field where you try to get them in as many situations as you possibly can so that you can start to, get an idea in your mind about what you're really good at, what things you need some extra work at, what you need to emphasize early in the season maybe while you're kind of growing in other areas so that you can be at your very best when you do have to play for real.
Coach, you've been in a few really good programs, one being LSU, and I know Bob's probably going to talk about some of those players, but like that system and the learning from that, and then you come to Notre Dame, what is that fusion like, right? Is there I know I can do this with this type of guy because we had it, but your system and how you coach that level of player at Notre Dame coming from the stuff that you learned at LSU. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've really been a big believer always in my career that the system that you run offensively has to be flexible enough to adapt to the personnel that you have. And, when we were at LSU, obviously a lot of really good wide receivers, people that could really go make plays. We had a dynamic quarterback at that time, obviously, as well, and Jaden Daniels. So, we were a little bit more skewed towards highlighting the abilities of what was on the roster and taking advantage of that. And I think you have to carry that with you to Notre Dame in 2024 when we made a run to the national championship game. I think people would kind of look at us and say, hey, they're a little bit more of a run-first team. They're a quarterback-run team. That was kind of the strength of who we are. So we kind of became that from even what we were at LSU. And then last year we got a little bit more back towards being a little bit more what we were at LSU. And I think that trend will continue here at Notre Dame. And I think that's going to be a little bit more our strength to be able to throw the football around a little bit more and be a little bit more aggressive with the way we call the game. But I think you've got to be a little bit light on your feet and kind of match what you do scheme-wise to what your strengths are from a personnel standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, when you have 2 running backs go in the first round from your team, that's a lot of firepower that you lose, and it's not that easy to replace that, right? So every year you do have to look at it a little bit differently, as opposed to if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you have Saquon Barkley in your lineup every year, or the Giants had him, or so on and so forth.
100%. And, I think that dynamic definitely changes. Obviously, losing the 2 running backs is a huge deal. And we've got some very talented young kids in the program that have kind of been waiting their turn. So we're never going to go away from the run game. That's kind of how we're built. As I was saying to Carl a little bit before we started the podcast, I mean, I'm an old Michigan State guy long years ago, and George Perlis beat into the Michigan State teams how important it was to run the football. I've always carried that philosophy with me, so we won't go too far away from that. But at the same time, we've got some pretty good playmakers on the edges. We've got a quarterback who can rip it, and so we've got an opportunity to open things up and be a little bit more dynamic as well.
So, Coach, tell us a little bit about and share with us and our Giants fans what it was like coaching Malachi Fields and how he integrated into your system and what type of player the Giants are getting.
Yeah, I have such a huge appreciation for Malachi. He came in here as a grad transfer. We didn't, unfortunately, have an opportunity to work with him in spring football because of him finishing his degree and doing some other things. So he was here for meetings, and he was on Zooms and learning the offense as best he could. But I didn't really get an opportunity to get a good feel for him probably until we were probably 2 or 3 games into the season for me to really understand what a dynamic playmaker he could be and understand what a force he could be for us. We used him a little bit more into the boundary as a receiver. He's a big, strong, powerful football player that can go make contested catches, plays with a nice bit of physicality about him that I love in a football player, and the Giants fans I know value that as well. And, he's in the locker room and around the team. You couldn't ask for a better teammate or someone who is more team-oriented and just wants the team to have success.
Yeah, I'll share a story with you that would make you proud. At the Giants Foundation golf outing a week and a half ago, I overheard a conversation during the cocktail hour, and somebody came over, the group I was speaking with, and they played golf with Malachi Fields. And the response was, oh my God, what an unbelievable young man. What a gentleman. What a pleasure it was to be around him for these 4 hours. Like, he left a mark based on his personality. Is that pretty consistent with who he is?
100%, yes. And, I think someone who, at the same time walked into Notre Dame and really kind of helped take over the wide receiver room. We had some talented young players in that room, but his veteran presence and his work ethic and the things that he brought to the table from not only the person that he is, but from a football standpoint, I think elevated everybody around him, and that's exactly what you want from somebody.
Coach, in just knowing that you only had him for a year, what are, and you see the upside, what are some of the things that you look forward to seeing him develop as a pro in terms of his things in his toolbox?
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch him kind of break loose. Having him for just the year, I don't know that I got an opportunity to really explore his true overall game and ability. We kind of had to hit the ground running and do the things that we knew he was already really good at, if that makes sense. And I think there's a development piece to his game that really kind of moves him very well in a position at the next level really expand his role in whatever offense he's playing in.
I was listening to the great Carolina receiver Steve Smith, and he talked about one of the things he would do if he got Malachi right away was to develop that little push slant, big physical guy that can go up on it and get that slant. And I was like, that would be great because they did that a lot with Keyshawn Johnson when he was with the Jets. One of the first things they did with him is to really took advantage of his physicality either out of the slot or outside. But that seems to be a route that a guy like him could really benefit a team from, right?
Yeah, I think he really understands how to use his size as a strength and really understands that aspect of the game. And even if somebody's kind of dragging on him or pulling on his jersey or tugging him like you defensive guys like to do, Carl, he can fight through that type of friction and make plays.
Coach, I think the other thing that comes along with this, and we talked about the two running backs that you had last year, and this is a staple in football. You can't have a good running game unless you have wide receivers that are willing to block. Talk about him as far as that role, because we know that John Harbaugh is going to want to be physical on both sides of the ball, and the running game is going to be part of what they do with Matt Nagy and Greg Roman. Yeah,
it's going to be a seamless transition for him to play, John Harbaugh and Giants football. I mean, I know what that city demands as far as toughness and how important it is to the people who follow the Giants and love the Giants to see someone play with the type of attitude that you're going to see Malachi play the game with. He's not afraid to throw his body on people and get his hands on people and kind of mix it up and play that style of football. So I look forward to seeing that.
Talk about his football IQ. You see the big body, you see the physicality, and then some players just really know how to manipulate the defender with that. You talked a little bit about how he can outmuscle you, but does he have a sense of, hey, I can box this guy out, or he has a sense of the little things within a route that he can add, just by understanding his body?
Yeah, I think he's got a really good feel for what his strengths are and how to use them in different scenarios in a game. Like you said, when he needs to body somebody up. Listen, I know there was some knock on him as far as what his time was in the 40 at the combine and this and that and all this business. That dude plays fast. And when he's up to full speed right away, and he'll surprise people with how well he runs. And that's another part of his game that I think will shine when he gets an opportunity to show that. I just think he's got a really smart football mind, and whatever happens to be a deficiency in his game, nobody's going to work harder to make sure he offsets that with his work ethic than Malachi is.
I want to ask you about another player that is on the Giants roster that you coached, and I know there was excitement with him in camp last year, Beaux Collins. Now, the Giants have added some depth at the wide receiver position with the veteran signings that they had earlier this week, including Odell Beckham Jr., but Beaux Collins is an intriguing prospect as well. What were some of the things that impressed you about him as you coached him at Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, Beaux was in a very similar situation as Malachi. He came in as a grad transfer and really did an outstanding job of giving us that type of physical presence, toughness, ability to make dynamic catches. A lot of the same traits that you see out of Malachi, Beaux possessed. And from a physicality standpoint, it's there. From a makeup and a mental standpoint, his ability to pick up the game and understand the game, it's there at a very high level. I think, I didn't get it. Obviously, we don't get a chance to watch a lot of NFL football, unfortunately, but with our schedule. But special teams value and ways to help the team in so many different ways. He's the type of athlete that can help across the board. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how this all kind of unfolds for him. You also had a chance to coach Malik Nabers at LSU, who's obviously coming back from injury, but has been a dynamic player. What are some of the things about working with Malik that you really enjoyed in your time at LSU?
I love Malik. He is one of the most competitive people that I've ever been around in my entire life. And it's really, really important to Malik to be the very best. And his attitude towards the way he practices and the way he approaches making himself into a great football player is infectious. And listen, now he's someone that likes to have people around him be as accountable to football as he is. And sometimes that comes out the wrong way, and he's learning how to deal with some of that stuff. But no one cares more about the Giants having success than Malik. I guarantee you that. I talk to Malik all the time. It's a really important relationship that we have, to me, and I hope it is to him as well. But just helping him understand, how important it is to navigate certain scenarios and situations. And he's learning as he goes. But I think what people know and understand about him, or at least I hope they do, is that everything that comes from Malik is with his mind on winning and his mind on the team having success and his mind on making sure that the Giants are successful as a franchise. And I know his heart's in the right place. And he wants everybody around him to be just as competitive and want to win just as bad as he does.
Sounds like another guy from LSU that was in the Giants. It's similar. When I saw Malik his rookie year, and I'm seeing the same qualities, just burning to win and not understanding why others are not having that same, burning desire to win. And that was Odell Beckham, right? And the fact that Odell is in the Giants locker room now will help regulate, I guess, or moderate some of that stuff, because they're the same people. He's older and wiser now, but Odell was the same guy. So he can help Malik navigate that, and to still be that leader. So I'm excited to see the two of those guys together, but I'm more excited to see Malik really come into his own, because he had it going and then he got injured, and we were so excited. So we're all looking forward to getting him back in, really healthy and going again.
I couldn't agree more. I think Odell is exactly in the right spot to not only help himself, but help the Giants organization and help Malik at the same time with navigating the shark-infested waters that sometimes can come with playing in New York, as you know, Carl. But, I just think at their heart, that's two men that are incredibly competitive, as I know Coach Harbaugh is as well. And no wonder he wants to surround himself with people like that.
Yeah.
Coach, I have one more NFL-related question for you. Excuse me. Riley Leonard. You did wonderful things, and you had tremendous success with him. It looks like he's starting to blossom with the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Carl and I are very close with Daniel Jones, which I think is a great person to have there with Riley. But just talk a little bit about what the upside is with Riley Leonard, because it certainly seems like the Colts really enjoy what they have in the player.
Yeah, I really believe, and I said this a lot to the NFL scouts when they came through and we're looking at Riley, that I believe his best football is ahead of him, and he's just going to continue to get better and better at what he does. And I think from some of the things they asked him to do before he came to us, and then how we were able to kind of move him along in his development, I think those things put him in a position to now just grow more and more. And I really believe that, great things are coming for Riley, just because of, he's in a great position, obviously with Daniel being there as well. Him and Daniel, I know, are connected at the hip. I know, they spend a lot of time together. both in the meeting room and kind of socially and hanging out together. And what a great example for him to follow from that standpoint of learning how to be a pro and going about doing things the right way. And then from a talent standpoint, he's learning as he goes how to really consume and understand the quarterback position. And I think as he does that, his play is just going to become more and more consistent, and he's going to be in a position where he can help football teams win.
Coach, going back to the college game, I remember growing up, right, like Penn State was linebacker U, and USC churned out the running backs. What is it with Notre Dame and tight ends and the ability to produce tight ends on a consistent basis? Obviously, the Giants had one in Mark Bavaro years ago, but what is it about the program that just continually churns out good players at that position?
Yeah, Mark Bavaro, one of the greatest ever, and incredible. I mean, I can remember, even at my old hairless age, watching Mark do some amazing things when he was playing for the Giants. But, I think it's one of those things where we've always had a system of offense here that features that position in particular and puts a premium on the development of the players that play tight end here, not only from a blocking standpoint, but, from a run and catch standpoint. And I think what ends up happening is once you kind of have a track record of making sure that development is steady, I think every starting tight end here at Notre Dame since 2002, my first year here, has been drafted into the NFL. And I think when they're looking for tight ends, they look first at Notre Dame to see whether there's a capable person there, because I think they know that with the scheme that we run, that they're going to be able to learn the entire position, be multi-dimensional in how they play the game, and also be developed at the same time.
And really a position that can be an X factor in the National Football League, as we see, teams using tight ends that, especially guys that can be versatile, right? More than just a big slot guy.
Yeah, it's really kind of, swung back around, right? The NFL to being a little more spread out probably 5 years ago to now. You see a lot more 12 personnel. You see a lot more condensed formations. You see a lot more of that kind of game planning going on. And that position in particular has always allowed you, as an offensive coordinator, I guess if I had my dream team and I could put my dream group out there, I'd have a 12 personnel group with 2 dynamic tight ends that could not only punch you in the nose and be physical at the point of attack, but could get out in space and make plays, and then force you as a defense to put either bigger personnel out there or smaller personnel out there, and then take advantage of whatever you were doing, right? So if you got your bigger guys out there, I'm going to spread you out and go after you. And if you put, a nickel out there and you're a little bit smaller, I'm going to beat your brains in with the run game. So, I think that versatility is really, really critical. And if you have it, I think it's just an added dimension to who you can be.
I'm smiling, Coach, because that is why offenses are always a step ahead of defense. It's like for the last 10 years, defenses, we got to get smaller, faster. We got to be able to cover these spreads. And offensive coordinators like, bring the little guys in here. I'm going to put this big back on you. I'm going to put my 2 tight ends on you that can run and they can catch and they can block. And let's see how that fares. And so now you see, just like your running back that got drafted this year and what Saquon Barkley and what Cooks has done to defenses, guys that can catch the ball. You've got tight ends that are in line that can get out at the second level. And it's just a dilemma for defensive coordinators now. That's why you see teams trying to get bigger on defense again, because it's just such a mismatch. But you guys are out thinking them because you're putting bigger people out there that move like little people.
And what do you force them into, Carl, as well? If you have that type of dynamic player at the tight end or running back position, the last thing they want to do even as good in coverage as you were, Carl, they don't want to match a linebacker on one of those guys. And
no.
So what you end up with is a lot of zone coverage, and you can just pick them to pieces. And, you know, with the intermediate passing game and free access throws and different things that you can take advantage of. So, you know, you're absolutely right. I think it always kind of swings back around, and it seems like it's getting more to where the tight ends and the running backs, you know, you kind of got to fast forward, or not fast forward, but rewind maybe 15 years to where those positions were kind of highlighted in offenses. And now here we are going back in that direction again, which is pretty cool.
Coach, we see that on the NFL level. Do you see that on the collegiate level, just based on the fact of geography, right? Like, different conferences have different styles, and you as an independent, you're touching bases with a lot of different styles and mindsets. Is it slower to change on the college level as maybe it would be on the NFL level?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I do think it's a little bit slower on the college level. I think what we try to do as much as anything is have a little bit of a balance between both, if that makes sense, and have a system that if we need to plug an extra tight end in and take a smaller body off the field, that doesn't mean that the concepts that we run have to change. But the personnel running them may change, if that makes sense. Right. And that way we're versatile enough to take advantage of whoever they put on the field, and we can match it, or we can hopefully be opposite of what they're trying to take away with our personnel, and catch them in a mismatch when we need to.
So, Coach, September the 6th, Wisconsin. They don't play any preseason games. You're playing in Lambeau Field, which is pretty exciting. Just talk about your schedule now leading up to this game against an opponent that you will not have any preseason tape to study.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously there's some familiarity there. You know, Coach Fickell, obviously I worked with Coach Fickell, and at Cincinnati, I was the offensive coordinator there with him for a number of years before I went to LSU. So I'm sure he feels like he's got a pretty good beat on me, which is fine. You know, we'll have a few things in the hopper for that one in particular. But, you know, I think more than anything, we talk all the time around here about, you know, not worrying about who the opponent is. And as excited as we are to play in Lambeau and to go against the University of Wisconsin, who I really think has improved their football team a great deal with some of the additions that they had in the offseason. If we put our focus on us and we put our concentration on us, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape as far as being ready to play that first game, even without the preseason game. The best thing we have going for us here is that we've got a really good defense to go against, even on the practice field, that gives us multiple looks and drives me crazy half the time. So it gives me an opportunity to vet a lot of that stuff on the practice field.
Well, I mean, that's what Carl and Mark Bavaro, when they're on the rubber chicken circuit doing interviews, that's the big conversation, is how they each made each other better.
We were together.
Because, you know, those were 2 days, full pads.
This weekend.
So important. It really is. And
Coach, you would be amazed at some of the battles Mark and I had, and we called it abuse, because his coach Mike Pope and my coach Al Groh and Bill Belichick, we'd be in a 9-on-7 drill, and it's, you know, we got enough linebackers to keep going through the drill. And they would stop the drill and say, give me Mark and give me Carl. And we'd run the next 5 or 6 plays against each other. It's just, you know, so we just, and Mark and I, we laugh about it because, you know, there was no brother-in-law. You know what that is, when we try to take it easy on each other. He's like, well, the coaches are standing right in the middle of the drill. We can't even give each other a break. So we just had to go at game speed. But we both made each other better. And that's why we were the best at what we did.
So important to have, you know what I mean? Like that type of competition, right? And you know, the saying that we all live by, iron sharpens iron, is is never more true, right? And the more you can challenge yourself as a player, and the more you're willing to challenge yourself as a player, that's where the uncomfortableness is where the growth happens. And so I'm sure that wasn't always the most fun, but look where it's taken both you and Mark.
Listen, game day was easy compared to practice.
Well, Coach, we appreciate this has been awesome. We want to wish you the best of luck this season, especially against Wisconsin. And as someone who went to Bergen Catholic High School in New Jersey, big fan of Notre Dame. That was always our school because college football wasn't that big in New Jersey, so Notre Dame was your team. So we appreciate you joining us. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. Believe in Giants. Believe in the Irish. Thank you, Coach.
I really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for having me. Best of luck to all the boys on the Giants, and I know it's going to be an incredible season for both of us.
Yeah, success to you guys as well. Thank you, Coach.
All right.